Hi, and welcome to Chucka's Album Show, where I'm going to sit through an album by my chosen indie artist and discuss their thought process behind the album, and also just to have a little chit chat and a general catch up. Tonight, I'm delighted to welcome my guest on my final show for this series is John Michie. How you doing,
Hello.
mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. You?
Excellent. Yeah, really, really good to see you. Now, we've not met before. We've spoken a little bit via Twitter, and that's about it. I think you've been on a bit longer than me, haven't you?
I've been on and off Twitter for many years, but as a musician, pretty much properly since September, I think. But I was aware of a few people beforehand, like HD Bradley and stuff like that. So I'd interacted with people. I was aware there was a community there, but there wasn't anything really solid or concrete until this pandemic hit, I suppose. And
Yeah.
I sort of watched it, and then when I started releasing material, that's sort of when I got my foot like right in the door there with them lot. So, but yeah, it's lovely. It's the only forum for musicians currently to openly talk about every part of the business. Like Facebook and Instagram is basically just adverts. I don't understand why anyone wants to be on those platforms, but yeah, it's literally the only place we can go. So yeah, it's one of the things that has kept me sane during this pandemic is having like a group of people to talk about, talk about music, how we record, the thought processes, how we can improve. Um, I don't really like doing it, but also sharing demos with other people and getting them to get their opinion. I don't like doing it because I have a feeling that whatever I give them, they're not going to like it. And when they hear the finished result, they're still not going to like it. Whereas if they'd never heard it, they'd go, "Oh, it's brilliant! It's absolutely brilliant." So I sort of don't like that process of getting things out the door before they're ready. I'm on my own. I work in a bedroom. It's just me, and I'm not the greatest musician either. I don't. I've never performed live because I've never had the opportunity to. I don't really know if I want to perform live either because it's not something I'm going to be able to think about for a while either with this pandemic. But I see myself more as a creator in my bedroom, and I seem to have a lot of fun doing it. And if people like it, then that's a bonus at the end of the day. But you don't have to be a performer to be a musician. You've got people like Brian Wilson or Harry Nilsson who never really performed live at all in the whole of their careers. So that whole aspect of you need to be a live performer, I think's a redundant argument. I probably see myself more as a producer, um, because that's the bit that I like doing. I think I'm a bit more ahead of some people with the software and what to do to make something sound decent. Now I've struggled with really bad equipment, until recently I've had a really bad mic. I'm a bit more at grips with how to change sound and get it to fit as best as I can when it sounds rubbish. Whereas a lot of the people on Twitter want to make music and they're not aware of these certain programs or plugins that you can buy to get yourself to the next level quicker than doing it. But that's mainly because I've spent longer probably trying to do that album, and I did it on my own in this room with no help. I didn't, bar the odd YouTube video, I didn't really get any assistance at all on that album. There was only one mate who I got to listen to all of the songs I'd recorded, which was about 30, and just say which ones are good, which ones are bad. And then after that, I took the good ones and then I just shuffle played them on my computer for about a month until I got a track order,
Yeah.
and then I shoved it together and mastered it. So I think I'm a bit more ahead of the process than some people on Twitter because they're starting and they also think in terms of singles. And I've never been that type of person. I've always been thinking I need to make an album
Yeah.
and try and make a cohesive piece of work. I'm not massively ahead of the curve. I'm more experimental than some people on Twitter. So
I've noticed that a lot of it tends to rub off as well. Like I've been on the peripheral of some of the conversations, and again, because I'm not tech-minded, some of it loses me. But I am interested, and I sit there and I just watch these conversations kind of blossom. And one of you will go, right, this, try this, and somebody else will go, that's brilliant. Why didn't I think of that? And if you do this, and all of a sudden there's a group of you there that are pushing and helping each other.
It's the pandemic. It's
Yeah.
simple as that. You've got everyone across the world is stuck in front of a computer screen and they're logging on, and we've formed real friendships and roots. So, and I can't see that going away.
And you know what? If I'd have said that to you about 2 or 3 years ago, that you would form these relationships via the internet or via a social media, you'd have gone, I don't think so.
Yeah, pretty much. And
All of us would have.
Yeah, and it's like I've actually been quite sounds really bad. I've been quite happy the whole last 12 months whilst all of this nightmare's been going outside. So I've probably felt more connected to people. I've probably felt a lot happier about the direction of travel for my life. You know, so even though this is a terrible thing we're going through, for me, there's been a lot of positives, and I think for a lot of musicians there has been as well. I've realised that I need to knock out another album as soon as possible, possibly 2 this year, and just keep on knocking it out of the park, because this has leveled the playing field for the indie scene in a lot of ways. It's made it very hard, but in terms you can't gig, you can't get an audience. But none of the major labels are releasing any albums at the moment.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing being pushed by the apart from maybe Dave Grohl releasing an album, but there's like nothing going on at the moment. So if we don't seize the opportunity of being the only thing happening, this is it. There's never going to be an opportunity to do it when things return back to normal.
Before we get into your album, a little bit about yourself then, John. Whereabouts you from? What do you do? When did you first start getting into your music?
Where am I from? Well, I was born in a really terrible part of the country called Norwich. I hate the place, but I spent the first 18 years of my life there until I got the first opportunity to leave, which was at university. And I went to Royal Holloway, which is near Heathrow. And then I lived in London for a bit. Then I came back to Norwich, didn't like it still. And about 3 years ago, I moved up to Morpeth. Morpeth is about 15 minutes north of Newcastle. I'd been in a very, very bad job in terms of not enjoying it, and I needed to change my life. And I thought, well, I might as well move to the part of the country I want to live in.
Yeah.
But my dad, he was from Scotland, so hence the name, the weird
name. Whereabouts Scotland?
Aberdeen.
Okay. Oh, quite.
But he'd lived in Africa and all sorts of places, so
yeah,
a bit of he'd travelled quite a lot. So I see myself as a northerner, as in I've never felt at home down in the south. How did I get into music? I started learning how to play guitar when I was 15 years old. I was writing songs, and the first song I ever wrote was "Wish You Were Dead." I've got
what
a cat.
A cracking track!
Yeah, that's the first song I ever wrote.
Was it really?
Yeah, literally the first song I ever wrote. So I knew that needed to go on the album. That was a pain in the ass to record. It started off as like an acousticy type song, but it just got layer upon layer of nonsense until it turned into what it is today. But yeah, it was only about the same time when I moved up here that my life changed, that I got into recording as well. And that's because I listened to the album Visions by Grimes, and I realised, she'd done all of this on GarageBand on a laptop.
Yeah.
It's a really good album if you ever get a chance to listen to it. And that's when it made me realise that you didn't need to get signed anymore. You didn't need to be in a band. You didn't need to tour. You didn't need to know people. With a small little box you plug into your computer and a musical instrument and a bit of, blood, sweat and tears, you could produce something that was as good as anyone else could make.
Yeah.
And I didn't start in GarageBand. I decided to download an illegal copy. I have got a legal copy now of Logic,
Yeah.
and right in the deep end from day one. So it wasn't even like an easy door to get into. I threw myself right in the deep end, and I struggled. I really struggled for 2 years, and it wasn't until let me think. It's really hard to remember years now, isn't it? It's 2020 was last year.
That's
right. It was only about October 2019 that I finally everything started falling into place, and by April the album was done.
Really?
So yeah, so it's been done a year. It's been sat on the shelf.
So you said you started when you were 15.
I think I had a strange sort of like I started listening to the Beatles pretty heavily at that age, and I just thought I've got to play guitar. I know I was never musical beforehand. Like I'd never played any instruments, and I think I'd come back from a holiday in Italy, and I was like, I must have a guitar. I need one.
Yeah,
I need to learn it, and I just started writing songs. I didn't think I would be able to do anything with it because I come from one of these families where it's like you must get your GCSEs, you must get your A levels, you must go to university if you can, you must get a sensible job, and that's the right thing to do. So, and I'd never come across anyone who was in a band or anyone who knew how to play a musical instrument and actually wanted to go with it.
So you never really had a musical background at all then?
And never had a musical background. I've got people in my family that are musical.
Yeah.
But again, it's like my granddad. He played piano and probably could have been professional, but he was a doctor. So
yeah.
But it's it's you just try and do the sensible thing in life. I was never surrounded by people that wanted to join a band, so I've never known really anyone who wanted to play drums with me. So it's just one of those things where I'm playing a guitar and I'm thinking nothing's going to come of it. Yeah, I've never known anyone who played musical instruments. So for me to be in a band just wasn't on the cards.
Yeah, it was never an option.
Yeah, and it's like when you're working as well, Monday to Friday, and you don't know anyone. I probably could have put in an advert, but I'm a bit of a control freak as well, so I'm quite happy in a lot of ways that I've got total control now.
Yeah.
But it was listening to that album Grimes by Visions that sort of told me that you don't need anyone now. You can have the Logic drummer doing all of the rhythm for you.
Yeah.
You know, as long as you've got an idea of where you want to go with the song and you've got a bit of time, you can experiment and, you can do anything with it. It's given me enough time to actually promote my album. You asked me, what do I do? I'm a trained teacher.
All right.
But I do a lot of supply work. So when schools are open and I want to work, but at the moment in this pandemic, it's not really the sensible thing to be working. I know that, they're trying to get kids back to school and that, but it's just like there's no point in doing it.
If you don't mind me asking, what subjects do you teach and what age group do you teach?
So secondary school teacher. I'm supposed to be a history teacher, but I've taught about 20 subjects. The last full-time teaching job I was in, I was teaching 6 subjects, and they thought it was reasonable, if they're listening to this, to make me teach 8 subjects.
Wow.
So I threw the towel in. I don't mind them knowing that because that is a horrible thing to be doing to staff, but it's not just their fault. It's the government's previous fault, the previous government's fault for not funding schools, not having enough teachers.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it's not just the teachers that are suffering, it's the kids. So I do a lot of supply work, which is crazy because you get to work whatever hours you want and you get paid the same amount as what you do if you're working full time without the marking. And it's just a no brainer, really.
Yeah.
Why, if I want tomorrow off, I can have it. Yeah, I like the job, but it's not for me. It's not for me. I'm quite happy just earning the money, doing a good job when I need to do it, and pursuing music now. That's what I want to do.
So when you was at uni, did you was history one of the subjects that you took there?
No, I studied politics and international relations, and then I did a master's in international relations.
Okay, and that was in
that was at Royal Holloway.
Down near Heathrow.
Yeah, in a place called Egham.
All
So
right.
apparently Paul Daniels lived near there when he was
Oh, did he?
still around. Yeah,
Oh, you'll like that. Not a lot.
with Debbie McGee. So it was all right. It was a bubble. You were near London, but you weren't in London, and
Yeah.
right near Windsor. It's all right. It's just very quiet. It's probably not as raucous as what it would have been if I'd have went to Manchester or Liverpool for a university experience. So was supposed to go into politics, but ended up teaching, and yeah, all sorts.
Wise choice, my friend. Wise
Yeah,
choice.
choice of champions.
You dodged a bullet there, mate. You dodged a bullet. So going back to the music, who would you say were your early influences?
Beatles are the big one, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think they've influenced everyone though, so that's probably the boring answer.
I don't know. I think the Beatles are one of those bands that everybody takes a little bit of something out. I mean, you could have 100 people in a room, and you'd have that many different answers of their favorite songs, their favorite albums, their favorite Beatle. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's like when people ask me like to describe my music, I always think of it more like the continuation of the White Album with a few drum machines. It's the type of thing you could imagine a song or two appearing on the White Album.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, they covered every single base though, didn't they? With that, like Helter Skelter's a bit of punk. So, but in terms of like wider influences, Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, the Gilmour era, that's pretty much up there. But I also like Grimes as well. I'm not afraid to take a few electronic elements from that because I do like some of the things she does. But she's following the same sort of like pathway in a way of people like Bowie and Madonna because she's constantly evolving and trying to change her sound and trying to sound different.
Yeah.
David Bowie, of course. Just pretty much anything that isn't pop music. Anything that isn't anything that's in the charts, I don't listen to. But I also like the really weird type of music, like some of the stuff Nicholas Shah's doing is pretty awesome. Which like dancey experimental music, especially with Dark Side, that's pretty good. Yeah, I'll give anything a go. Boards of Canada, Paul Weller, of course. You know all the classics. Jarvis Cocker, The Verve.
Yeah.
Love The Verve, the early Verve. So anyone who plays a guitar, really, I'm pretty much game for. See, I was a massive fan of Oasis when they broke in the mid '90s because I was born in '85, so I'd have been 9 when, or come up for 9 when Definitely Maybe came out, and then Morning Glory was like the year after, and then that whole era, Be Here Now, from all that was they were massive. It was just like you could not avoid that Britpop scene with like Blur, Elastica, The Verve, Paul Weller, like all Cooler Shaker.
They were underrated. I thought
Cooler Shaker are amazing.
I really
K's K's a fantastic album.
Yeah,
but so that's a lot of like the first experiences of music is being bombarded with that as a kid, and the behavior. They just didn't give a monkey's about what people thought of them.
Yeah,
and I've said this in an interview the other day that when you look back at then, the celebrities then did not have an ego. They weren't they did not care how they were being viewed. Whereas today, all of the celebs will not walk out of line because they're so scared of rocking the boat and about how much money they've got in a bank account and about how long their career is going to last. And they didn't give a monkey's. Jarvis Cocker getting on stage at the Brits and mooning during Michael Jackson performing. He didn't care. He didn't care if he was thrown off TV for the rest of his life. He just did it. And I think we need that again. We need people to be human and not like this beige establishment that we've got going. So that heavily influenced me.
I couldn't agree more. I think you've definitely hit the nail on the head there. But as you said as well before, times have changed recently, more so than for quite a while.
As people want to be happy now, I think people have had a massive You know, I was doing this before, you know, the plague hit. I was determined to give it a good shot, and I was determined to sort of like observe how other people were doing it on the internet and sort of think, right, I'm going to use that as a template. But as this pandemic has gone on, I think people have had a massive stop on their life, and they've realised that they are just working 9 till 5, day in, day out. They've got a family. And all of these other things, and they're not stopping to take breath. And when they were suddenly at home all the time and not allowed to go out and couldn't, you know, drink themselves silly down a pub every Friday night, I think they started thinking, well, and couldn't go on holiday. Started thinking, well, what do I want to do with my life? Am I happy going to the office every day and, you know, buying a Greggs for lunch? I think some people are happy doing that. I've got one or two friends that, you know, still love going into work and, you know, doing those things and love the routine. But I think, you know, there's people like me more so now, and people at Orange G who have good careers, are well respected in their field, but have always had this passion, and now are thinking, well, hang on a minute, this is something I want to pursue. You know, you don't necessarily have to give up your day job, but there's a balance that can be struck.
Yeah, it's getting a happy medium, isn't it?
Yeah, and I regardless of, you know, all of it, people, I see it on Twitter sometimes, people go and, oh, you know, there's too many people doing music now, you know, anyone can do it, you know, the market's crowded. I'm just thinking, well, fair play to them, they're at least having a go.
Yeah.
And you don't know where you're going to go with it half the time when you start. Like, people do music because they enjoy it, and if they get a good response, that's when they want to do more, and they want to better what they've done before, and they think, okay, I am good at this. Once they get that reassurance, that's when they start wanting to take things to the next level. And, you know, I think it's healthy. I was one of those people right at the start who was just putting my feet in the water. I wasn't sure whether I was going to get fully in to the, you know, to the deep end. And now I'm thinking I actually do want to do it. So, yeah, it's been good in a lot of ways.
And fair play to you. Well, that's given us an insight into you, John. I think now we should have a look at the album. And the album is High Vibrations, and that's by the John Michie Collective.
I'll make a bargain with you. You take me aboard your rocket ship, I'll show you the cave of gold.
Yes? Oh, yes. Who? Oh, put him on.
So the opening of the album there then, John, The Mothership and Beautiful Day.
What would you like to know about them?
Anything that you want to tell us, my friend.
So, the Mothership started from me just wanting an air raid siren on a song, because I thought I've been told since that British Sea Power did this. I don't know. I've only seen them. But I thought at the time no one had ever used an air raid siren on a song, so I thought I must have that on there. And I did sort of semi-think if I ever got to play gigs, that'd be a good opener for a show with an air raid siren. I thought, so that was in my thinking. So that went through about, not kidding you, about 20 different versions, that song, until I got to the current one that I have on there. I knew I wanted the slide on the end bit, wanted some weird sounds on there. But in terms of what it means, completely meaningless.
So you know your samples from your films and that, because you use a few during this album. Were they specifically picked out, or was it random, or did you have something in mind?
There's who gave me the idea to use samples on the record was a group of gurus that do yoga.
Yeah.
And this all goes into the artwork story behind that. When I was trying to get the artworks, the sleeve design done, I approached Elliot Landy, who did all the photographs of Bob Dylan back in the 1960s and 70s, and he had a Woodstock photo of, the Swami opening up Woodstock doing a prayer, and I wanted to use it. And I had to get permission from his estate, which is Integral Yoga, to use it, and they wanted me to use him doing speeches throughout the record. And I thought that's a really good idea. One, I have him quoting throughout the record.
Yeah.
And I did like a song which had his samples on it, and I literally took the MP3 and shoved it on the record. Didn't do anything else with it. And they said, "Oh, it's really good, but you've sped up his vocal. Can you slow it down?" I was thinking, I've not changed his vocal. I didn't tell them this, that, them that. But I thought, I'm not going to argue with them. It's going to be a nightmare trying to get this to sound the way they want it and not how it, So I thought, well, I like the idea of putting samples on, and copyright is a nightmare on everything. So I decided to buy a few sample packs off the internet of movie speech, and I just listened to every single one of them. There was about, I don't know, 4 hours of people speaking, and I just literally lifted the ones that I liked the most and shoved them on the album. So I wish I had. This is where a record label would be amazing, because they'd be able to have people sorting your M&Ms out and also listening to loads of audio to get a more of a narrative through on the samples.
Yeah.
So I did my best. There's something about gold going on, but it's completely meaningless.
Well, do you know what? Right at the beginning of the album, when the mothership kicks in, as soon as I hear that woman's voice, I'm like, it took me back to when I was a kid and I'm watching Flash Gordon at the cinema every Saturday morning. Do you know? Because it's something like, I'll show you the Cave of Gold or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Let me on your rocket ship and I'll let you on. Yeah.
But I thought, who's done samples in the records? And I think you've got like Primal Scream with Loaded, but there's not been any real bands that have done that in between. The songs. I've had one critic say, "Oh, it's rubbish. Why did you do that? You've ruined the record." But
Really?
I like it. Yeah, I had what? Yeah, but he doesn't like psychedelic. I think no one else has done that. I thought it was creative. I think it goes with the moods of the record of not knowing what to expect. Other people have used it. Is on the latest Daft Punk album. They've got like I think it's the second track or third track. They've got like about 1 minute of some guy speaking before the music kicks in. But I'd like to explore that a bit more, maybe, and try and get more of a narrative throughout the record. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going to go when it gets to the mixing of the second album, because I'm still trying to record it. I don't know what will happen with that. Whether I'll do that again. I quite like the idea of leading the songs into each other more, doing more of that soundscape thing. But
yeah. So that's the mothership. So then we're on to Beautiful Day.
Beautiful Day was written in this room where I am at the moment in Morpeth, and I think I've just moved up here by about 4 weeks, and I picked up my guitar and I just got the guitar part, the chord part on my acoustic, and I thought that's catchy. Kept on playing it and I recorded it. And I think I left that on my computer for about a year and a half and didn't come back to it. Didn't come back to it. Yeah, I had that, and I had a little bit of the lead guitar. What I came back to sort of like try and make into a song was not in time, so everything had to be re-recorded, and nothing was direct input into the box. It was through my really rubbish small orange amp that's about like literally that big. It's tiny. Via my rubbish microphone. Yeah, I think it came out all right. There's a lot going on in that. It's messy in terms of the instruments that are used. It's not like a standard, as all with all my songs. It's not standard. You don't know whether you're going to get a piano next to a harpsichord or something. There's like an evolution always going on in that sound. But it's basically I had to delete a whole verse of that song. There's a whole verse missing from that because I couldn't get the recording on my rubbish mic, so I just had to delete the whole verse, and I had to work with whatever lyrics came out in a way that I could actually use them. That's one of the things that is a common thread throughout this album. Is there's a lot of verses and things that have been deleted because the vocal was that bad through my rubbish microphone.
Really?
Yeah, so there's this. That's probably why it's a bit more instrumental than the traditional rock records, bar like the Pink Floyd type ones, or Hawkwinds, because I had to delete huge chunks of it, which is a shame. But at the end of the day, it's come out pretty well, and it probably would have had very long songs if I hadn't have done that. So it probably helped in another way.
Yeah, but just looking at your album actually, and the length of the tracks. I mean, your average, I would say, works at about what 3 minutes 10, probably 3 minute average.
Yeah, it's pretty short. I wanted to get it up to like the 50-minute range in total.
I think it's about 49 minutes, isn't it?
Yeah, 49, which is I think that's a decent length. Hard to put it on vinyl myself. If I wanted, I'll probably have to get some songs taken off the album if I wanted to do a vinyl run. But I wanted to give them 14 songs as well because that's what the Beatles used to give people back in the old days. But I don't know how the hell they got that into half an hour's worth of records.
Yeah,
I actually looked at Revolver today.
One of my favourite albums.
But the songs like Eleanor Rigby's like 2 minutes long, and you're like, you think, how on earth have they got all of that music into 2 minutes? That blew my mind. I'm aware that Revolver's like half an hour long, but actually looking on Spotify today at the length of each song, like Taxman is like barely 3 minutes, and you think there's a guitar solo in that. You've got the riff, you've got about 3 verses, you've got a chorus, and you just think, how have they crammed that into 3 minutes? You know, I've got a lot to learn in terms of being really brutal with what needs to go in a song and keeping it interesting, but yet making it feel like there's a hole there. So I wanted the 14 songs because of that. So I'm a bit dodgy with numbers. I can't have 13 on an album. That'd be something bad would happen if I included 13. So Beautiful Day. It's about nothing. Absolutely. Again, so the first 2 tracks are about nothing. The way I tend to write songs are based on getting a melody first and then humming a tune over the top and then working out the syllables and the ending phrase, and then I write down as many sentences as I can that fits that, and then I try and make a narrative. So you never know what you're going to get when you're making music. So the first song that I probably used a drum machine on.
What, A Beautiful Day?
Yeah, at the beginning, before the proper drumming kicks in at the end. That's probably the first time that I thought, hang on a minute. And this is like that part of that process of realizing I don't need to do anything live. So, and this probably helped me find a sound, was that I don't need to worry about these things.
Do you play drums as well?
I've got a drum kit. I can play badly.
Yeah.
But I'm probably got the same issue that a lot of people have of not being in the right house to actually play drums.
Yeah.
I've had a few lessons. I can read drum music, but I don't practice. If you give me a week, I'll probably get things going again. But it's been a long while since I actually sat down, and because I don't live in the house for it. The garage, it's too cold, especially up in the north. If that's something I'd like to do later, is get an electric drum kit so I can direct input into my computer. But at the moment with Logic, they've got the drummer program in that, which is as well. Coldplay use it, so if the professionals are using all of these cheats, why can't we?
Exactly.
I don't feel bad at all about using loops or drum machines or anything like that, because the professionals do. And if these are, I think there's sometimes some indies feel a bit ashamed if they're using these tools, but they're there for a reason.
Exactly.
And and it's like Rihanna used the drums on Umbrella as a loop from Logic. So if she's using them on a hit records, why can't we use these loops as well to add character? I don't know somebody who knows Latin drumming. I do now on Twitter, but it's when I was making the album, I didn't know anyone who played violin. So if I needed a violin, it was either loops or try and use MIDI, and MIDI's rubbish for that type of thing. So, yeah.
Excellent.
Don't feel ashamed. Don't feel ashamed at all.
No, and rightly so. And you touched on it there. And I think that's becoming more evident in people's work as well.
I hope so. Like these tools are there for a reason.
Yeah.
Why struggle? Why, if you want a production that sounds like it's been made in Abbey Road or Olympic Studios, you can do that now in your bedroom. You've just got to bite the bullet and go, right, I'm going to use that stuff.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if half the stuff on a record these days isn't actually recorded from a real instrument. Apart from guitars, I wouldn't be surprised if the drums and the keyboards and the synthesizers is all some guy with a MIDI drawer just drawing it in.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, does it, now that it's digital?
If you can.
One thing that my mate Genetic Effects on the internet has told me to do, which I'm sort of like an eye opener. I know people have done it before, is using Foley underneath those digital sounds to make them more interesting. So using like sound effects. So for instance, if you've got a snare drum, just don't make a click noise and bury that underneath the snare, and then it'll bring it to life, that recording a bit more. And it sounds strange, but it does actually work. I'm quite shocked by it. So that's
Excellent.
the one thing I'm doing different now.
It's amazing what you pick up as well, isn't it?
Well, I would not have thought of that if it wasn't for being on that Twitter community. Is you
Exactly.
pick up these little production techniques and snippets of information, even like plugins. There's a free plugin on the Apple Store called, I think it's Tonebridge, and some Happy Acres, who I've been chatting to, he does like roughly the same sort of genre of music as me. He pointed me in the direction of this free plugin, and it's got literally every single guitar effect and off every album that everyone's ever used. So if you want the Jimi Hendrix sound off that record, you can just click on it and it's there, and you can adjust it.
Wow.
So I'm using that now on my latest recordings because it's opened up a lot more texture to the sounds than what I could have had before with the plugins that are inbuilt on Logic.
Yeah.
So I love a plugin. Really love a plugin.
Well, rightly so. I mean, you spend a lot of time on this. You've got to be happy with what you're working with, haven't you?
Yeah. And the weirder the better. I do like anything that changes a sound. So I've bought a couple of new plugins, and I've downloaded a load of free ones as well. So it will be interesting to see what will come out of this album. But it's going to sound, I think, more polished than the one I've got out now at the moment, because I've had a bit of an equipment upgrade. It's going to be along the same lines, but I think it's going to be weirder. I think I'm going to really push the weirdness envelope with the next one.
We look forward to it, my friend. We look
Yeah.
forward to it. So back to this one, and we're going to listen now to Wish You Were Dead and Nothing to Die For.
Say what you say. singing your song. She turned off the lights. She turned off the light. Just say what you say and get out of my sight. Just say what you say and get out of my mind. Just say what you say and get out of my mind.
I ain't gonna die, am I?
I've known for a long time, no use pretending. I don't see the light behind your eyes. You're burned by emotion, bittersweet remembering. I know you were told, but I'll try to find a way. I was bought and sold with those words you used to say. I've got nothing to live for. You've got nothing to die for. Take my hand.
So that was Wish You Were Dead and Nothing to Die For. So, Wish You Were Dead.
This is the first song I ever wrote. So, that's sort of, if you're going to write a song that's your first song, you can't really get better than that, I suppose, unless it's something like Bohemian Rhapsody. But in my opinion, I think I'm pretty proud of that. I think that's...
And rightly so.
It's got everything going on it. It didn't sound like that when I first recorded it. It was just like acoustic, and it had roughly the same sort of lead guitar work going over the top, but it was busy drums, and I had to totally rethink the way that I approached that song's production to get it sounding the way that it did. And the lead guitar is Chuck Berry, and I thought, well, who used that? And it was Revolution by the Beatles. So the first thing I did was I went on the internet to try and find out how to replicate that dead Abbey Road channel that they used to plug direct input in Abbey Road. So I had to EQ that and do all the nonsense to try and replicate that sound. So it's the Revolution sound. Then on top of that, I've got the drum beat off Nightclubbing by Iggy Pop. But I couldn't get the delays right on the drum kit because, of course, they're using proper good equipment.
Yeah.
Because they've got a delay on the kick or the snare. So that had to come off on the end. So you've just got the basic beat all the way through. But that was off Nightclub, and I got that idea. And then the bass line is the same effect that Queen used on Radio Gaga, with arpeggiator, whatever it is, on the bass line. And I thought people probably have used this, but I thought I haven't heard this effect since Queen had used it. And I don't particularly like Queen. I like Freddie Mercury, and I'm a bit more of an albums man. I think all of Queen's albums were rubbish. I'm gonna have people trying to crucify me. Yeah, they're a singles band. They're a bit like the Stones. They made good singles, but in my opinion, the albums weren't.
So Night at the Opera is not one for you then.
I've got it on cassette. My dad's cassette tape. I've listened to it a few times. It's not. I'd rather buy the greatest hits of Queen if I'm going to listen to it.
Yeah.
But I'm not a fan of Queen. But I appreciate them. It's not my taste. I appreciate them. I appreciate what they did. I understand Freddie Mercury was a phenomenal live performer, and I'd be first at the queue to go and see them perform if I was back in the 70s any day. But the actual sounds that they're getting in their records are quite they're quite groundbreaking. Like that bass sound that you have on Radio Gaga going all the way through it, and also like the backwards piano notes that you get on Another One Bites the Dust. I like that as well. So there's little elements I pinch off Queen now and again. There's far too many effects on Wish You Were Dead. If I was signed to a record label with a producer like, I don't know, Timbaland, God forbid, they would have not had as many effects on that song as what I've shoved on it. They would not have had the weird thing on the voice. They would not have had the changing effects on the guitar. It would have been tame. And I think because I'm coming from the bedroom producer of music, where I've got no help and I've got no idea what the hell I'm doing in the door, or I do now, but when I was making this, it was trying out every single effect on the computer, spending hours, and anything that sounded good, keeping it, and just building it up layer by layer until you have like this nonsense that makes sense, all fitting together. Because you've even got acoustic guitar on top of that, and that doesn't go with what's going on in the record, but it's sort of fits with it.
But it does.
And that's just from me literally recording, playing over the top of the song. Just like I just play fiddle, not knowing what I'm doing with my acoustic guitar, and I chopped out all the nonsense, all the rubbish playing, and I just kept what was good, what sounded good on top of the record. I just thought, right, I'm keeping those bits. I'm very proud of it. I've got some dance music production techniques in Wish You Were Dead as well, because I bought a book on dance music, and it's got backwards kick drum in it as well, which I used later on in the record. And a lot of effects. I deliberately used some effects to freak out the students that have probably eaten too much Domino's pizza and doing things they shouldn't be doing at 2:00 in the morning whilst watching MTV. So I deliberately play on those type of noises that they would enjoy.
Good effort.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like
so
that one.
that's Wish You Were Dead. I'm very proud of that. I think that's a really good song. It's one of the better songs I've written off the record. So next one, Nothing to Die For. That's born probably out of listening to Hello Goodbye by the Beatles and having opposites in the song. And I liked the way that McCartney had played with that, and I thought, well, that's interesting. I also recognise that a lot of songs also have opposites in them as well.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'm going to get a line and then I'm going to play with it. So I deliberately tried to write an anthem as well. I thought fourth song on in the record needs to be an anthem, and I tried to write something that someone would want to sing if you're going to perform it live. Something catchy. This is 15 to 20 years worth of writing, and this was whatever I had that fitted together that wasn't rubbish. I've still got some stuff on my computer and I've got stuff in my head that I'm recording now that was too good to put out, and this was just literally 14 tracks that worked well together. The synth start to that came from I bought a keyboard, an Arturia keyboard, and it came and it had 5 keys that were dead on it, so I had to send it back. But before I did, I shoved all of the MIDI I had on that song through all of the different effect settings of the free plugins you get with the Arturia keyboards, and I had to send it back and give up the software. But I thought, right, I'm shoving that on the record. So that's that keyboard did something for that song. But it did have a totally different beginning. That also had a line deleted out of the song because I couldn't get the audio to actually work right with it as well.
Right.
So there is a line missing from that song, and there's probably another section of it that's been deleted. But I think that was knocking 6 minutes, the original of it. So, but again, it's another song that's not really about anything. It's just wanting to play with opposites.
Yeah.
And I'm quite happy with it. I do think it's an anthem. I think it could have done with a better microphone for the vocal, but it's got something.
Oh, it's definitely got something. So next up we have Sometime on Monday Morning and The Ballad of John Wayne.
If you want my opinion, he's in a rut.
Oh, well, if you want mine, he's in the groove.
crime in the morning papers. Me. I killed that fat barkeep. And they don't know I done it. But I'm going to tell them I done it.
Son, you don't know what you're doing.
I killed that fat barkeep! You crazy, Tony! You crazy, crazy, crazy! Get out of here!
Hey, what's going on in there?
What am I doing here? I ain't no singer.
Come on, honey, do it for me, huh?
So that was Sometime on Monday Morning and the Ballad of John Wayne. And off air, you were just saying that there was like a problem with the title of Sometime on Monday Morning.
Yeah, it was called Sometime on Monday, but it's called Monday Morning on the album because it's actually the back end of a B-side that I've already released. But I had to speed up the original song because my microphone didn't record my vocal very well, and I needed it to sound higher up than what it was. There's something awful about that microphone. The one that's on the album is the original speed, and the reason why I did it is because that back end of that song is so good that I couldn't leave it on a B-side how it was, so it had to be on the record. But because I'd already uploaded it, DistroKid, who's my who I upload my music to all the streaming platforms, wouldn't allow me to do it with a different song title. I don't know why. So it had to be Monday Morning. So I've got 2 songs out there called Monday Morning that are slightly different. But again, this is one of the Arteria synth things, is I had the MIDI and I shoved it through quickly, the Arteria synth sounds. It started sounding very Fleetwood Mac, later Fleetwood Mac, as I looped over a section of the end bit of the solo, and what I did is I basically extended that section and started playing around with it, and I think it's come out really well, that guitar part. It's one of those songs that could have been so much better with the original front end if I had the correct mic. I might re-record it at some point. I'm pleased with it, because it's got something about it, even though it's an instrumental. That guitar solo fits really well. It is the closest I've come to later Fleetwood Mac. I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it. But the title, I don't know why it's called Monday Morning. I was because the song's called "You Missed the Moon on Monday Morning" from the original one.
Right.
But
okay.
I've got no idea what it means. I don't know where I've picked that title up at all. But I'm happy with it. It's a good song. But the next song, The Ballad of John Wayne, was when I first discovered on Logic how to muck around with the time signature to make things speed up and slow down. I had a drum beat going and I started hearing the words, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" over the top of it. And I thought, I've got to record this. I'm singing through a guitar amplifier as well, which is a trick that I picked up from the Strokes, because Julian, what's his name, from the Strokes does that quite a lot. The reason why it's called The Ballad of John Wayne is because John Wayne doesn't walk like a normal person, and the song's rhythm isn't normal either. So that's where the ideas about having being a bit foggy headed in the morning, not making the right decisions, and being in gun battles comes from. I did have a sample of John Wayne on the demo speaking at the beginning. I didn't put it on the record because I knew I'd have some idiot from the John Wayne estate, the John Wayne estate, trying to sue me or take down the music because of it. And I just thought, I'm such a small creature in the music business, I would have no defense against these people, and I haven't got the money to go and buy that, and I wouldn't know who to contact in the John Wayne estate either to get permission. It said it was from a copyright free advert, but I didn't feel safe having it on there.
Wasn't worth the risk.
yeah, it wasn't worth it. Wasn't worth it. But it's got a Velvet Underground part to it as well. It's got like you can hear as you walk through the songs, you can definitely hear the influences of like the Beatles.
Yeah.
Of you've got the Queen aspect in there. You've got the Fleetwood Mac aspect in there, and then this one's sort of like the Velvet Underground with the singing about nonsense and the guitar solo being all over the place and just not everything being quite right about it. I think it came out well. The end part of it came out of me mucking around with a few loops right at the end when I was putting the album together, and again, it's completely meaningless. As all my songs are, it's not about anything or anyone.
Well, that's great. So that takes us on to Hung on You and Take You Home.
I was dreaming yesterday about the girl who came to stay. Play and catch me if you can. You know I would, but you slipped right out my hands. And I can't let go. Walking slowly in the dark. Getting cold and getting dark. I like seeing you this way. I couldn't think of anything else to say.
Honestly, darling, I love you and nothing will change it.
I'm so glad to see you. Been so long since I've seen your face. Excuse my bad behavior. Had girls I wanna chase, and I'll take you home. I'll take you home. Been pouring out the sweet champagne, take you dancing in the rain. Finding out where I belong, gonna sing that song again, and I'll take you home, and I'll take you home. Let's pretend the world is crazy, smoke cigarettes in the night. There's something here I want you to see, but the sun turned out its light, and I'll take you home, and I'll take you home. 'Cause I love you, dear. I want you near, I want you near. 'Cause I love you, dear. Please breathe the lies I Snow White.
So tracks 7 and 8, Hung on You to start with.
I wrote that on a sofa when I was living in Tooting. And I was working in a solicitor's firm in Brixton at the time. And I'd come home and it was dark outside. I think I'd got myself a few beers from the corner shop. And I just sat down with my electric guitar plugged into this old amp I used to have. And the starting rhythm started. And that's when I started writing down in my head. So I didn't write down. I've never written down anything on paper. Just got the words together, and it was like it first started off with me saying, like, I read the papers yesterday. I thought that sounds a bit like, oh no, terrible. So I've got to rewrite the lyrics. But I had the rhythm in my head from a very early start. From that, it's not how I would like it to sound, if honest, or how I imagined it if I was ever going to record it. But again, it's not having a decent mic to be able to record the sounds I wanted to, so I had to approach it from a totally different perspective of using different things to generate that rhythm and sound. And then once you start like that, you've just got to go with it. I would like it personally as an electric guitar doing that rhythm and being very minimal, but I could never get the sound right. I could never get the acoustic guitar recorded properly to match up with it as well. But the guitar solo on that is pretty good. I'm using delays panned at different angles, and it's a bit trippy if you're wearing a pair of headphones and listening to it. The whole album is a headphones album because I don't actually mix off speakers. I'm always using a pair of headphones, and whether it's dance music, because you've got to always think about everything being in mono when you're in a nightclub, or the modern records. Everything's mono these days. There's very little movement with the sounds that you used to get back in the 60s and 70s. That seems to have died. And I really like the way, for instance, the Beatles had stuff moving about on Sgt. Pepper's. Things were moving around all the time. You didn't know where it was going to go. Like on Strawberry Fields Forever, they've got that guitar riff, that and it just like goes from one side to the other. So I was keen to use some of that panning on that.
I think this one is quite Beatlesque.
You like it, yeah?
I do, yeah. Is there a sitar in there as well?
It's a zither. This is
right.
This is some Chinese instrument, which it's a MIDI instrument on Logic, and I liked the sound of it. Yeah, without sounding like Jean Michie Collective's China album or whatever it is from the 70s. It literally was a texture that I liked from the instruments on the library on Logic, and I thought, well, I'm gonna use it because I don't know a zither player. I really don't feel bad about using these things because Yeah, who am I going to contact to play this instrument? So it was just a case of me liking the sound of it and then just rearranging slightly the notation for it so it would sound and fit into the song. This is where, you know, if you are with a record label, it would be great because you could just go, oh, phone up this guy from Beijing to come over and
Yeah.
he can play it, or, you know,
but there must be such a sense of achievement though when you put this together and you produce and you edit this song and you go, I've done that. Do you know what I mean? I didn't have such and such in China that I could bring over. I've done this myself.
I think that's only sinking in now with each of these songs because I worked in a silo of no one heard the album, bar my one mate near the end who actually said, I said, which ones are good, which ones are bad. No one heard it. I wasn't on Twitter daily. The pandemic hadn't happened. I had no one. It was just me, my Mac, and the software, and you know, do or die, I've got to make this work. All of the demos that I had given out to my other mates, who have quite frankly got terrible taste in music. They like, you know, they like Simply Red, for instance, and it's like, you know, I'm sorry if you like Simply Red, but it's just not good music.
No.
Mick Hucknall, he looks like a troll, doesn't he? But you know, a Meatloaf as well. I hate Meatloaf. I get people like that music, but it's just that my musical tastes are so different to my mates. And every time I'd given out a song for them to listen to, I'm not going, oh yeah, this is amazing. This is like the best thing since, you know, whatever. And they're like, no, it's rubbish. This is terrible. You know, this is, and I got to the stage where I no longer gave out any of my music until it was done because I knew no one would like it. And I thought I've got to just stick at this until I think it's finished. When I think it's finished, you know, I can't do anything more with the songs in any way to make them sound better. That's when it's done. What's been really nice though has been the reaction from people on Twitter and they're all musicians. You know, there's a community on there, and it's, you know, there's not many people of the general public outside of that forum that have heard it, but I have generally had a positive reaction to what I'm doing. People have either been blown away with the complexity of what I've created because, you know, they're using the same software, but they haven't been at it as long as what I have.
Yeah.
And it's just a case, you know, anyone can do what I'm doing. It's just a case of, do you want to sit in a room for 2 years experimenting? I feel proud about it now. I feel good about it. I never had, probably with many of the songs that on there, so thinking this is brilliant. Really, really brilliant. Apart from I Write Your Constellation, that's one I thought, yeah, I've totally hit it out of the ballpark with that one. And even now the album's coming out, it still hasn't really registered that I've done something really amazing too much because I'm already on album 2.
Yeah, and I get that.
You know, I'm already thinking about what I'm doing there, and I'm already thinking about how I want album 3 to sound. So I'm totally ahead of where everyone else is. And
exactly, because people are only just getting to hear this.
And this hasn't been, I've had this on the shelf for a year.
Exactly.
You know, this is
just my opinion. I think it's a great album.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So that takes us to Take You Home.
I liked it. It's one of those songs that I actually sent to my mate, Dan, down in Essex to listen to, and he didn't like it. I really liked the backwards bits at the end, the way the vocal seems to just not end. It goes into the backwards bit. It's one of those songs where it proves again that it's not all instrumental. I can actually write lyrics. I can play around with a bit of the story, and I can inject a bit of humor into that, because I was actually very conscious when I was writing or putting together the album that it is heavily instrumental, and I don't want to be seen as just an instrumental artist. I want to have the odd song that crops up where you can go, oh, he can actually write a song. I don't want to be put in a box of just being, you know, an instrumental guy.
Yeah,
because it's you know, if you're not instrumental, you know, you don't want to be there. So it's got some lyrics on. Yeah, it sounded totally different for the demo because I didn't have the finger picking guitar over the top. It was quicker guitar playing, but I just literally deleted that and I put a slower rhythm on top of it as I was going through. So yeah, as with all these things, I never know how they're going to turn out, but it was, yeah, a bit of experimentation on there, a bit of backward stuff,
yeah,
and a bit of funky drumming on it as well. So I'm happy with it.
Excellent. Let's move on to track 9, which is Escape from San Francisco, and 10, Under the Stars.
The acid's eating through my suit.
He said that it's gold.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Under
And that was Escape from San Francisco and Under the Stars.
Escape from San Francisco is again a very it's born out of loops again, and this was one of the last things I actually did for the record, and it was during the mastering stage. Yeah, and actually putting the album together, you need to have long chunks of time where you're not actually listening to the record because you get ear deaf to it. So I was having these huge breaks, and I was just mucking about on the computer to be busy, do something musical and something not related to the album, and that's when that was born out of it. And I really like the music of I think his name's Lalo Schifrin or whatever, the guy who did the theme tunes for or the scores to Bullet and Dirty Harry, all those classic films, and that's where the San Francisco bit comes from, is all those films are sort of like in San Francisco. So nearly wasn't created. I nearly didn't put it on the album because it was so heavily loop based, but I thought it sounded good. I could have drawn the MIDI in. I could have done it myself, but it sounded good, so it's on there, and I like it. I like it a lot.
Good.
Under the Stars wasn't supposed to actually play guitar on that song. Well, I wasn't actually supposed to sing on that song either. It's when I was first starting off with my music, I wanted my mate Steve down in Norwich to play on the song with me because he's a really good guitarist. He's up there with Mark Knopfler or Clapton or any of these guitarists. He's super good, but he is sensible and has a 9-to-5 job and has never thought about music anything more than just having it as something to relax to. And I thought, right, I'm gonna just create a piece of music where when I come down with my laptop, you can bring your guitar over, you can plug it in, and you can just noodle for 20 minutes over the top, and I'll take it back home and I'll have you. I'll chop it up into a performance, of you, and us two can do a record together. Anyway, I arrived down in my mate's house, waiting for him to come over, and he didn't come over at like 12, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3. Came over at 6, and by that time he said, "I haven't brought my guitar."
No.
We haven't brought my guitar. Let's go out for a curry. It's like, okay. So I had this piece of music, and I decided, right, well, it sounds all right. I've got this weird guitar sound going on the sides, and the drum beat is okay. And I just thought, well, I've got to have some lyrics to it. I looked at the Brian Eno album Apollo, which has got Underneath the Stars, or I think it is, on the record. And I thought, right, I'm lifting that title and I'm going to say that on the record. And I've got Running On Through is the other thing, which goes with the riff. That's what I'm saying, because that's the riff that I came up when I was trying to jam over the top of it. But again, my mic destroyed the vocal, so I had to put this weird effect on top of the vocal, but it sounds good. So the mic gave something to me there. But a lot of it is experimental in the sense I started looping areas of the record, just playing the same 5 seconds over the top and hearing what was good just in that section. And if it was good, I'd remove a layer and hear what else was good within that. And then I'd just expand the piece of music and I'd loop out that section. And then I'd have different things kicking in and out at different parts of the song. So, how it started off and how it ended up sounding were two totally different things. And I think I'd just done Wish You Were Dead, and I put the arpeggiator noise on the bass on that record. So on Under the Stars, I started shoving it on other things like the synthesizers and on the pianos, and I started really going to town with where I'm using this effect on that record. And because it's quite cinematic, that song, so I made a really good video for it on YouTube, which seems to go really well, about space travel. And if you watch the music and listen to the music and with the video, it sounds pretty good and looks pretty good. But
so get that, listeners, get on YouTube.
It's done quite well on YouTube, actually.
How's that?
But it's it's just a bit of fun. It's just a bit of fun. All the guitar playing on it is me, using a slide as well, and it's fun. It's got a bit of funkiness to it, and I want to try and inject that more into my songs. I'm trying to go a bit more funky and a bit more dancey, but no matter how hard I try to do it, it always seems to drag off in a direction that goes totally the opposite to disco or dance music. But I'm quite happy with that one.
Excellent. Brilliant. Right. Okay. So we are up to tracks 11 and 12 now. These are Written in the Sky and Penny Was Her Name.
I really think that computer in there has just got to be drunk.
I've seen
Why, you young hoodlums, I'll call the police.
Hey, man, you say one word to anyone and I'm gonna moon you.
You're gonna what?
Moon you!
So that was Written in the Sky, and Penny Was Her Name.
So, again, I don't know a Sarod player, so that's the. It's not a. It's not a sitar on a Written in the Sky. This is my mate Giddings' favourite song. He loves it. He heard a version of this back in January, 20 whenever it was. Was it 2018? So a long time ago. This is when I first started mixing and learning how to record. And he thought it was brilliant, despite the fact I had nothing balanced in the recording. Like you couldn't hear the bass guitar in it, and so on. And it's a good psychedelic type pop song. I've heard it called wonky pop, but it's good. I like it. It's got the backwards part in the middle, which is a bit trippy. It's got a good guitar solo in it. I'm pleased with it. I think that's a decent piece of work. It doesn't mean anything. It's just literally, what can I make to fit to this? Something a bit trippy, and you can hear the references I'm pulling off that. It's got a bit of indie Britpop in it. It's got a bit of Beatles in it. It's got a bit of everything.
Yeah,
it's got a bit of everything. I think it's got a really decent drum beat in it as well. But yeah, I don't know a Sarod player, so if if anyone plays one, all right, please get in touch. So I might re-record.
Do you know what? That wouldn't surprise me at all. It wouldn't surprise me at all if somebody comes. Do you know what? Actually, John, I can do it. I'll do it for you.
It'd be handy actually knowing these people, so I could.
I'm sure you'll get to know them sooner or later.
I hope so.
So, Penny Was Her Name.
I don't know why it's called Penny Was Her Name. I quite
Okay.
like the name Penny. I think that might actually come from the film Wonderwall with Jane Birkin in it. Have you ever seen that film from 1968? It's
No.
one of those weird cult films that George Harrison did the music to, and Eric Clapton plays on there as well. But of course, Noel Gallagher nicked the title. But it's a really good film actually to watch. And her name's Penny Lane in the film.
Oh,
So I
right,
think,
okay.
yeah. So she's this model, Penny Lane, and this weird scientist next door gets a hole in the wall, and he starts. Sounds really horrible. He starts looking at her through the wall and gets obsessed with her. But it's not done in a creepy way. It's really quite clever how they've done it. And he saves her life. So I think that's probably where the title comes from. It's just born out of a guitar riff. And yeah, it's another one of those instrumental songs, which is it's a bit of filler. It's a bit of filler. I suppose if I was assigned to a record label, they'd say, take that out. That's a B-side. You know, if they were, you know, they would not include that in the record. They'd want something else there. But it's got a bit of acid rock type vibe to it. Yeah, it's all right. It does what it says on the tin.
Nice one. So that takes us nicely to the end of the album and the final two songs, which are I'll Write Your Constellation and The Astral Projection.
May we serve you, Earthmen?
If we can get hold of that gold, we're all going to be rich for life.
You have a lot of talent. Thank you, sir.
Last two tracks of the album, then.
Yeah, so All Right, Your Constellation is the only song so far to be played by the BBC local radio or that I've uploaded. And I've uploaded Wish You Were Dead. I've uploaded, what else have I uploaded? Under the Stars. And there's another one on there I've uploaded. And they've ignored them all. So, obviously don't like my music. So that's the only one that's been picked up by the BBC. This was originally about 10 minutes long. And it was one of those songs that you jam over the top. There's an idea there. You leave it and it just sits on your hard drive. And when you're going through your files, you suddenly come across it. And I thought, listening back, there's something here at the back end of the song. The front end was rubbish.
Right.
And the middle part was rubbish. But the back end, when the guitar riff, which is a bit like U2 without the delay going on and all that nonsense the Edge puts on it.
Yeah.
Very British indie type sound. I thought there was something on there. And I subconsciously probably like channeled bits of Jimi Hendrix with like the backwards snare drum that rolls through it at one segment. Backwards bits as well, which I want to do more of on the records, because that was used quite a lot during the 60s, having these backwards sounds buried underneath that kept on rising up. But near the end, again, it starts touching onto something that could be a bit disco. With the hand claps and the guitar solo going, and it just builds up and builds up. And I feel like it could have went on for probably like another half an hour if I knew what I was doing. If I was in the Bee Gees, I could have had a whole album built out at the end of that and put on Saturday Night Fever.
So finally, the last track of the album then.
This was another song that my friend did not like when he was sifting through.
Is he still your friend?
Yeah, he is. He likes the Pet Shop Boys though. So,
wow.
I understand people like the Pet Shop Boys. It's not my type of music. He's got like all their albums, even still buys them today, all the stuff that comes out. So he's got a slightly different taste in music to me, but he didn't like this song. I originally wrote this as the album opener as well, not the album closer. It's another instrumental. It's another one where I looped a certain area of song that I heard the guitar riff playing, and I thought I'm going to muck around with this segment, and I did the same in certain areas of it. And I again put in those little textures that will turn on a student at university at 2 a.m. So I deliberately played around with those sounds that would inspire thinking. And
And anything else
that's going on at that time. Not supposed to be the album closer at all. I really wanted I'll Write Your Constellation as the album closer, but that one had to be lumped in. I thought it was too good to put on a B-side as well. And it's just basically built around an organ, a guitar, and a drum. It's a really simple song. There's nothing else going on. And I think it's a good... It was actually called A Beginning as well. That was the original title of the song. But I hunted around for something a bit trippy because I couldn't use A Beginning at the end. That would have been more trippy if I put A Beginning at the end. That's genius. Maybe I'll use that on the next album.
So leading from that, then, does this album lead into the next album, or are you going in a different direction, or are you just going to see what happens?
I know the 10 songs I've written already for the album. I've got them down. There might be more that end up on there, depending on what comes along or what happens in between then and now, or what ideas get spring up. But I've had an equipment upgrade. I've bought in the time of me completing this album here, I've bought an electric piano. So I've had that arrive. I've bought a new bass guitar because I've all of the bass on this album is drawn in with a mouse. So the amount of hours I spent, with this thing, clicking in and drawing every single dot where the bass would be, and the same with the pianos and the organs. That's all hand drawn in. There was no, there was no keyboard to help me do it quicker. With the bass guitar as well, not drawing in the notes, I can play it straight away. And that's also allowed more rhythm to develop out of the songs, because what you can do with a dot on a MIDI is not the same thing that you can do with the real instrument. You can't draw in finger picking and how that sounds as easily. You can have a good shot at it. You can layer sounds, but that's opened up a whole groove within the new record that I'm working on that hasn't been present on this record. So there'll be a lot more going on in the low end that's different. And I've also bought a new microphone.
So you've got all your new equipment, you're quite happy with it. What is in store for us in 2021? What have you got?
I can't believe it's 2021 for one.
Crazy.
What's in store for 2021? A longer beard, longer hair. I would like to get the second album out. And then next year, the year after, I'm really thinking ahead, I'd like to do an acoustic album. Just totally me and an acoustic guitar and maybe an organ. No drums, nothing. A piano album as well. So I'm thinking ahead of what I'd like to do. I'd like to do something totally different within each album. Apart from that, it's just enjoy the ride and just keep on pushing my music as hard as I can. Keep trying to build as much momentum going forward.
Well, listen, John, thanks ever so much for being a guest on the show. Like I say, it's been fascinating. I've really, really enjoyed it. I do appreciate you coming on, and all the best for 2021.
And for you, thank you for the opportunity. I really, really appreciate it.
You're more than welcome. And if you'd like to follow or get in touch with John Michie, then here are the links to his social media sites. On Twitter, it's at John Michie Music, and that's spelled JOHNMICHIE Music. Instagram, John Michie Music. Bandcamp, The John Michie Collective. And YouTube, The John Michie Collective. Thanks again for listening, and join me on my Thursday nights when it's Chucka's Indie Playlist show. Take care. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Playing the best unsigned music. This is Chucka's Indie Playlist.